normally I don't necessarily refer to notes and such, but I've learned in the last few months that there is something known as pregnancy brain, and it makes it difficult to actually memorize things. I don't know why. Thank you for all your care you've shown me today with my injury and the excitement with the twins. The good news is I do fly better than I walk, so don't worry about that. Certainly we want to begin by thanking General Vaught and the entire staff here at the Women's Memorial for being such gracious hosts today. And they've been with us for months working on this project, and words can't thank them and their team enough, but I know all of you appreciate that. This week's celebration with the Congressional Gold Medal being awarded and earned by our WASP is about passing on the WASP story to the country that they served. And as you know, this is a story that is long overdue in its telling. In a very important way, their story helped write my story. When I was a naive 12-year-old girl, I knew I wanted to be a fighter pilot. And I remember telling people, and they'd say that you were silly. And the sad thing is that I might have believed them at that time. In the summer of 1986, my wonderful parents took us on a trip here to DC, where I saw a small display in a dusty little corner of the Smithsonian Air and Space Museum, where I saw pictures of you, women, flying, fighters and bombers and transport and trainers. And I knew that my dream wasn't a silly dream after all. No one from that point on could convince me that my dreams were wrong. And I personally owe all of you a great debt of gratitude for helping keep my dream alive. Sorry, a little emotional. My sense of connection to you, WASP, which began over 20 years ago, came full circle for me when I had a chance and a privilege to fly as an Air Force Thunderbird. Now, if you know anything about WASP, they don't just sit around. They're out there, they're go-getters, and they like to go to air shows. And I was at one of my very first air show. In fact, it was my third air show, when I was pulling in, getting ready to go to the autograph line. And I saw about 5 WASPs standing there with those beautiful blue scarves flapping in the winds, and there they were, elbowing their way to the front of the line, ready and willing to talk to me and ask questions and asking for my autograph. And I was so excited to see them, I made a beeline straight for those WASPs, my first real-life WASP that I've just held in such esteem since I was 12. And I wanted to thank you, and I wanted to run up and ask them questions and tell them thanks for the inspiration. But before I could get a word out of my mouth, those WASPs were thanking me for my service, for what I do as a fighter pilot and an airman in our Air Force. They gushed about their admiration for all the women military aviators represented here today by a lot of the wonderful escorts that have come out. And I thought, wow, this is really backwards. Here are my rock stars, here are my heroes, and they're thanking me. But it was they who took the first step, they who paved the way, and they who were the role models that I needed. The WASP have redefined what's possible for women who want to serve their country. I mean, let's think about it. Not many people would look at a pregnant lady in a wheelchair and say, hey, there's an Air Force fighter pilot. But it's true. I was at the Fly Girls exhibit opening, as Nancy had mentioned. I was talking to WASP Deanie Parrish, a beautiful, gracious, humble woman, very representative, I think, of a lot of the other WASPs that I've met. And many of you know that along with her daughters, Nancy and Barbie, they've been working tirelessly to capture and retell your WASP story. The WASP records, unfortunately, were sealed following World War II, and that's why it's a missing part of our American history. The contributions were largely forgotten. This great part, if you will, of the greatest generation had been ignored. And I remember talking to Deanie and her passion, and she looked right at me like any woman who flew bombers would. And she said, well, you're a White House fellow, why don't you do something about it? And I went home and I talked to my husband about it, and I thought about it, and I tossed and turned, and I thought, you know what, she's right. Let's do this. And I remember giving them a phone call back home. I said, I'm in if you guys are in. And that's how it started. These WASPs want their story to be told not for glory and not for recognition, but because it is part of America's story. One of patriotism and sacrifice courage, honor, and it's a story all Americans need to hear. In an instant, Deanie inspired me to join her efforts, and that's how it began. By fits and starts to begin with, but gaining momentum until the right people with the same passion took the reins and made it happen. We certainly need to thank Senators Hutchison and Mikulski, Congresswomen Davis and Ross Layton for being our champions on Capitol Hill. Lieutenant Colonel Roxy Dolphin, who's not here, I don't believe, raise your hand if you are, Roxy, is someone who, Roxy Dolphin, Angie Knappenberger, Colby Miller, who's standing back here, the staffers, the ones who, put the pedal to the metal. Senators and congressmen did a great job, but we know the people behind the scenes made it happen. Our indefatigable teammates, and now they are my friends for life. I know for a fact everyone here today helped ensure the success of tomorrow's ceremony and its reality. Whether it was writing letters, sending emails, and making phone calls, we certainly owe a special thank you to the families and the kids of our WASP. To all the Women Air Force Service pilots, those who are here today, those who can no longer travel, those who are no longer with us, including 38 who gave their lives in uniform, thank you for your example. Congratulations on earning this great honor. General Hap Arnold's promise to you 60 years ago is finally being fulfilled. You will never be forgotten. Thank you.
All I can say, Nicole, that's a great cockpit you've got now.